up next day and I was like, how am I not? Really bad. Just because, like, and I didn't know that after we got back from that island, there's I didn't do that in between stuff and then also we went to like a event that was like hosting fun. So it was just like rocking all the So I woke up and I was fine. I'm like, what? We went to that like Canadian chain restaurant.
Wait, Canadian chain?
More like
If you drank enough, you had a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, I mean,
it's only happening after
it was a great experience. I was just, I guess my attitude was like, stop the alcohol.
Yeah. Which that was the only thing I paid for.
I just went to her back.
No, I didn't think about it because I remember staying when she got back and translated American dollars.
Maybe next show.
But she'll have to let us know. Also, y'all should still throw me dollars for Pitchfork because I literally drove to Lincoln Park to pick Laurel and Bedouin up. $100 in gas.
Wait, do you still need? No, you don't need money for me because I paid for the train. They didn't pay you.
Let's go to a different festival this year. Trying to get a grant to go to a different city limit.
Do you want to do it?
Yeah, I'll do it. I'll find
Like advance we can afford. Or conferences. Wait, do you seriously want to be the person to do that?
Yes. I also like film, yes. Well, like if you think about it, we're every year. Like every year they send them something. We should get to go to some.
I still have that $20 from him. I swear to God, it's on my desk. I really want to give him that $20.
South by lined up with spring break.
Hello, everybody.
Cool.
Yeah. This is When Music Happens, Blast House presents Booking 101. Yeah, so by show of hands, how many of you guys have been to one of our events before, either the Blast House events or Booking? Cool. Awesome. Well, in case you don't know, what we do, we kind of set up these events. We started off booking shows, we have more efficiently, more professional. And yeah, I mean, the way that this is going to work is that there's going to be a portion right now where we're going to be doing, the panelists are going to be speaking and they're going to be sharing their knowledge with you. It's going to be around 8 or so. Probably saw his comment, is that correct? That's how we do fun stuff. Yeah. So without further ado, let me introduce our panelists. Let me get them to introduce themselves.
Yeah.
We'll start off with Darwin.
I'm Darwin. I own and operate the frequency. I've dealt with a lot of you. I think you all know what I do. So, yeah, that's what I do. We're a smaller venue.
Hi, I'm Cathy Dethmers, and I own and operate High Noon Saloon, and probably also know a bunch of you. Been there for a little over 10 years. So.
My name is Courtney Byelich, and my job is a little different than theirs. I'm the advisor to the Wisconsin Union Directorate's Music Committee, broadly construed, and that means that I don't actually book anything, but my students do, and some of them are here today. And so we do shows every Friday and Saturday night, and then so I'm all year round.
Just one last point, okay? So this panel is done purely for education. Everyone's here to network and everything like that. So as far as like solicitations or anything like that, let's just try to all be professional. Just like chat with each other, just to get to know each other and kind of learn how to use this knowledge. But yeah, did you guys have any questions before we started?
Basically, what he's also don't go up to Darwin and try to book your band right here. That's essentially what that means, right? Yeah. Like it's okay to introduce yourself. Hey, I'm But don't be like, yo, dog, what dates you got open? Don't, let's save that for email.
There we go. Perfectly set. All right, cool. Well, since we're all ready, let's go ahead and start. Thank you.
Yes, we're just you're gonna bounce some ideas back and forth. The thing I always bring up to bands is only have one person doing the booking in the band. It saves a lot of heartache. It saves a lot of, we're playing that gig because the bass player got drunk and booked the show with someone in a bar somewhere, and all of a sudden they thought it was, and the singer did this, and then half of the band doesn't know they were playing. How many times I've had a show where some of the bands came in and they're like, oh, I didn't even know we were playing today, so I kind of rushed here from work. So keep a person in the band that kind of focuses on actually booking your band, because you will reduce a ton of confusion and you'll have better success overall. I think that's one of the biggest things I try and teach bands. One person in charge of the booking. So that's kind of where I go with that. Passing the ball to you.
Okay. I would say one of the main things booking person to keep in mind just from the outset is really knowing for what genres do they book, what week do they book, just kind of general specs to see if it's a fit for what your band is doing, because you don't have time and you don't want to waste the venue's time, approaching 1,000 when your band has never even a show before, that kind of thing. That's an extreme example, but you get what I'm saying. You want to make sure, and I think kind of to go along with that, when you're presenting yourself, to provide music, you want to provide a little bit about your band. You want to provide maybe some history that's relevant. Well, we've already played these other 3 venues in town. Here are the local bands we've played with. So here's, just like a way for the booking person to get a really good feel about what we do and how we could fit on it. That's enormously helpful for me, and it eliminates a lot of back and forth where I'm just asking you all those questions anyway.
I echo all of these points. I also would talk about sometimes our log of all of these bands have contacted us. So if we ever have a need for something that we are looking through the pile of bands to be like, oh, that would be cool to do this with, then email that has that information. So you're not just, even if the information is there in that email and you can be like, okay, I know what they're talking about. I think there's some other points about being good communicating, having good communication skills that like, do you have listed somewhere? Could I call you back? Does your email address actually checks? Like info@whateveryourbandsname.com might go to some random inbox that like you don't check. Always having someone like maybe this booking person that Darwin's talking about, a person whose like life has all of these alerts coming up on their phone. That'd probably be helpful. I guess band names also comes into play. I don't know how the band fund got so popular, because before they did, man, that one was hard to find. And making sure that, so like if I see you on your email list and your band's name is like fun, then when I go back to look for you again and just check out your web presence or things like that, that I could find you. That's always helpful too.
Going back to some of the things that Cathy was saying, I'm going to gear a little more towards booking out of town, because I've dealt with a lot of you and you know how I do my process. When you're going out of town, you should really check your expectations. If you're looking to book a weekend in another town, it's absolutely essential that you have other bands from that region that you can play with, especially on a weekend, because it is a business. The club owner, the booking agent is going to want to know what you can do for them. If you haven't played a town and you can't draw any people, your odds of getting booking are very, very slim. So really networking with those other bands and having that time. And if you go to somebody and say, hey, a weekend gig. Well, for them, it's like putting this one band, trying to fit it on the minimal amount of weekends you already have in a year. It's almost impossible to just randomly find a slot. You know, if you say, hey, I want to play this weekend, you're like, well, you know, your genre might not match up. So the networking is probably one of the biggest things you should learn how to do if you're going to be playing out of town. In Madison, it's not so hard. I'm going to book you much quicker just because you're from Madison. So booking with me is going to be much different than booking with someone in Chicago or Milwaukee, because they're going to flat out look at you and say, how many people can. So just kind of temper your expectations when it might be frustrating, but the networking can actually be fun, and you can make great friends, your fan base that way as well.
Also, in terms of playing out of town, you know, one thing that I think has been really successful for bands is setting up a show trade. You know, make friends with a band that's in a similar genre or whatever, that you have something in common with, that your would mesh, and then making sure that they book you a show in their town and you book them a show back. And I think that, you know, you're solidifying your audience with both anyway, but it's a much easier way to get your foot in the door in a place that you've never played.
And if you do book it, the show swapping thing with bands from other bigger cities, make sure they get you a gig, because I've heard a lot of horror stories where people will bring a band to Madison and then the other band doesn't reciprocate. So, you know, if someone stiffs you in that regard, don't do business. If you get someone a show and they don't return the favor and you kind of have that organized and worked out, don't work with them, no matter how good they are. It's not worth it. You people that are going to reciprocate the work that you're putting in. If you're bringing a band in and the work to get your fans to come out and see them, the same thing for you in their city. Watch.
I love the idea of partnering bands too. We're always, especially, it depends on how much material you have, but if you know you have 40 minutes of material, then particularly it's awesome if you can come to us to say, like, I got 40 minutes of material, but we're also going to have this friend of ours open for us, and we're going to share a drum kit because that'll make your life easier. That's a good day.
Yeah, and even in that vein, sometimes it's helpful, at least, even if it's all local bands, if you have some sort of concept for the show,
Yeah.
like whether it's like a benefit, or if it's I don't know, just like, I can't think of a good example, but
Mustache
just
ball?
What's that?
Mustache ball?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Like the mustache bash, or you know, something like that. In addition to just each band, that's often a little bit more of a flag to me. Like, this is something that's, because I'm not putting together the concept in all the bands. It's coming to me as like a ready-made package to find a date. So it's something, you know, if you have other bands that you like to play with, and that, you know, again, like your crowds are similar, or it's just like, that's one good way to go.
I love a CD release party in that same vein.
Yeah.
Those are the best.
Yeah.
Those are the best.
Awesome. Well, okay, cool. I would actually like to ask you guys a couple of questions to keep going. So just to kind of elaborate, I mean, obviously everything is being said, you know, just to kind of, you're giving tips on how to make it a little more convenient, so you know, you can book a little bit easier, and book it, you know, book a little more professionally. Can you give us a glimpse into kind of like what the process is like at your respective locations, you know, the booking process, just so kind of people have an idea of, you know, how convenient they're making it for you, or make it a lot easier?
I do all of my, I would say 99% of my booking by email. It's quicker for me. I don't have a lot of time to spend on the phone, and I'm actually very rare at the club during the day because I bartend at night. So I get a lot of phone messages that, you know, they get returned late, just not because I don't want to get back to them, but because that time works out. Email has been the most way for me to get things done. So that's kind of how I go about it.
Okay. Cool.
Email for me too. I'm there during the day, but I'm also managing the venue and dealing with staff, and doing a lot of other things, so I can't answer a booking call just whenever it happens. But beyond that, email is often easier because immediate answer, like, available, of course, take it, you know, like a lot. So for me, it's like I have just my own, you know, personal complicated system of notes or whatever it is, but it's much easier for me to be able to see your email, be able to reference back to it, you know, once I figure out who I can fit where, get back to you, rather than on the phone like, oh, let me see, well, I gotta check with this band first, and, you know, so it's just a lot simpler. Say, but I can't remember. Oh, I know what it was. Just that I typically book like 2 to 4 months in advance as well, so keep that in mind when you're trying to book a show. I mean, occasionally I can slot someone in kind of last minute, but for the most part, I'm doing my planning well in advance, and so you.
Okay.
That's a really good point.
Now, Courtney, it does work a little bit differently at your establishments and your students.
Oh yes.
Right?
It's good. Okay, so it's good I'm last on this one. So to preface what ridiculous statements following here, I'll preface it by saying that our whole goal is education for everyone involved at the union. So the people who are booking the show are learning how to do that. People who are the sound people at the show are learning how to do that, and the people who are sort of building managing night of, those are people who are learning how to do. So it's a super awesome place for students and to be filled with history and to have some real experience, hands-on experience, like toes in the real fire experience on how they do this. But that does mean that our booking process is sort of crazy. So what that means for us, so we book like, we'll book shows a week, and then open mic night. But that means that those avails come to our committee, and so those are solicited in a variety of ways to our students. My email, sometimes it's through agents reaching out who have students and kind of relationships with students. Sometimes it's local bands who have relationships with students, or I filter them to the correct. And the students change every year too, so this is a moving target. And so those students come together about what it is that they're booking, and so they vote on it, and they vote on show price caps, and they vote on there's a lot of approvals that go into the way we do this. And so when working with us, email is really great because then I can pass it along in all of its glory, say, to the person who might might be most suited to deal with it, and then move that through the process. So it's always really helpful to have. So if I'm just taking, I have to then transcribe it to my email to that student who then brings it to the committee. And so it's sort of an impressive process that goes.
Awesome. Did anybody have anything else to bounce back off of that?
I think we had some questions maybe.
There were some questions already.
Did you say you have bands on hold? Like, someone will say, well, if a band can't do it, then, like that kind of?
Not exact, sort of. So I guess I place a hold when a band asks me about a particular date. Like, say for instance, there's a national act that's touring through. They might hold a whole string, still figuring out their routing, and they're not sure exactly when they'll land in Madison, if at all. And then I might have another band that asks me about that same weekend, and so then I give them second hold on those dates until I hear back from the first band. Sometimes I'm like 9 holds deep from bands that are looking for the same date.
That happens a lot.
Yeah, so, you know, that's why it's really hard for me to give an answer, because I hate to say, well, you've got 9th hold, so no way is it happening, because sometimes it does happen.
Yeah.
All those other 8 holds find another date or don't come to town or whatever, you know. But, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
shows
kinda
cancel
how it
all the
works.
time. I mean, it's just kind of the way of the world. The whole process is something that I found a lot of bands have a little bit of a tricky time. Each venue kind of does it different, but like Cathy says, I mean, instances exactly like she described, where I've had 9 holds on a date, and the last hold gets, all the other bands are like, well, we broke up, the band broke down, the tour got canceled, somebody, whatever, any number of excuses, but it does happen. So when you hear someone tell you your hold there, because you never know what's going to happen. And in the meantime, when you get that hold, that's when you're supposed to be taking your time to find your getting your promotion together and stuff, so making everything for someone to book you.
Yeah. What's the shortest notice you've had where like something's fallen through and then you might like do you usually hold on to the holds or do you usually tell bands when something's booked and official that like should look elsewhere for a venue?
I usually try and let bands know.
I have a list with contact. So if hold number 1 confirms, I go right down through the line and contact everybody that's on my hold list and say, sorry, it didn't work out. You know, if it's a good distance out, then I tell them to keep, you know, get back just to check and see because sometimes they'll in.
Holds and ask maybe like
I would
one
go
of them.
to the holds that are still there. If I contact someone and they say, okay, we can't play their name off the list, I'll just go right down the line.
Okay, cool.
Alternatively, if I place a hold for someone and it's pretty deep and I think one of the previous ones is probably going to confirm, I try and let bands know that up front. Say, you know, I can give you 5th hold, but just in case.
Sure.
There's one back there.
Along with cancellations and things like that, contracts come into play in terms of, you know, are you inking contracts before the gig? Are you, you know, what percentage of the time are you even working with contracts at all? Is it just a verbal agreement or?
I only work with contracts when I have a national touring act. Rare that I'll have a contract with a local or regional band unless they're a bigger known local or regional, and rarely do they have contracts. So it's kind of a lower percentage for me personally.
I would say even the same for me. I mean, you know, it's almost always just an email confirmation.
Everybody gets a contract with those guys. Even if you are playing for a cheeseburger, you will be getting a contract from us. And that's because we pay through the university system, and so like 60 something. We always have people fill out and then a W-9. And a W-9, I'm really not trying to steal your identity, I promise. I just need it to pay you within the university system. So knowing either, and that sort of gets to the business end of bands, so if you're an LLC or if you have an EIN number, those are super awesome things to have your booking person know about, and like an address that you could mail a check to after the fact if we had to, that's like you might see on your tour somewhere. That'd be good. But those are super important things to us particularly, and probably to other university or city venue too, where those were really important.
And I did have to declare that cheeseburger on my tax return, so.
Yeah.
I have a question, Courtney. As far as booking goes for you guys, do you do it in like just all the time, or do you try to book up like semester, or how does that work? And I would have right now, you know, how long would that wait be?
Well, it depends on the group of students, and I'm proud to say the group I have here today that you can are super organized and super on their game, and so that means that we're booked through the end of the semester, which in my 3 years of doing this has never previously happened. So we can actually focus on marketing a little bit more now. But it sort of depends on the year. Anytime from 2 weeks out to 3 months out to it's always worth it.
To that, Courtney, I think for us, if an artist wants to perform at our venue, they'll usually like to you or the Wood Music Gmail, and then we'll send it out to our students saying, does someone want to book this band? And then it kind of happens organically. You would put onto that, but
does that help?
Yeah.
I want to go back to like the email. Is there something like with the press kit that would stand out that you like look at above other emails? Do you like section off emails at all?
I don't section them off in regard to someone's email or what it is they're sending. I notice more when they don't send me stuff. I still get emails where people are like, I advertise them based on what press kits look like or what kind of press kit you actually have.
I would just say, for me personally, when you send a press kit, like a lot of bands will just say, we'd love to play your venue, here's my press kit, and just kind of leave it at that. But it's really helpful for me if in the body of the email there's a little bit more information, like not necessarily a bio and such, but like I was saying earlier, you know, Street as a band has, do you know any other bands here played? Just something to give me a reference point as to whether you'll be a good fit for my size venue.
What's super helpful, and like a YouTube video, either recorded or like live or recorded, either way, I don't care, or like a SoundCloud page. What's less helpful is a Tumblr page of Instagram pictures your band has taken.
Thank you.
Either regional or national acts. How do you choose opening acts if they were to ask you to provide them? Like, what's the process there?
For me, a band that kind of takes care of itself. If I have a band that people really like, or that have, there are people in bands in town that are fans of that band, that generally will take care of itself. The process of actually choosing that band can be tricky, because sometimes a band's agent will want to approve the support. So, I might have band A from town that wants to support the when they come to town, and yes, but send their link back to their agency and they can say, no, we don't want that band. So, it's kind of in my control, but kind of not in my control. I look for the strongest drawing acts for a national act, and that's a catch-20 kind of there's no set formula. I just look for the best one that I can get.
Yeah, and just to add to that, it's becoming more and more common that national acts won't even allow a local opener. They want to bring their own support, and it's really, like, let's say it's a 3-band bill, they might be touring with the middle band, but the opening band is someone that they find all on their own. They don't even ask us. They just find someone that will maybe play Madison and Milwaukee. So I've just found that I have less and less input into it. I even do get to choose, as Darwin said, a lot of times they still want to. I spend, trying to come up with the bands that might be the best fit, or that I think would have the best draw, or would be just a good overall addition to the show, and then wait for the management to get back to me and say, we don't really want what we have. A lot of times there's not much that you as the band can even do to make this happen. Other than, I guess, have a professional web presence that helps us pitch you to the agent.
That's true. I have experienced the same things. We have more and more packaged openers, and more packaged openers that we don't know about until like closer and closer to the day of the show, which is, sort of problematic on many levels. But I would also say that the We Make Music awesome resource for us for particularly that. I can't tell you how many times I went to Alejandro being like, so I have this really random headliner, who you got? Or like we post on the page and you guys sort of respond organically, which is even better. We do still run into that awkward moment where we're like, be our opener, and then the management is like, no. So we're always very sad for you on that level. Know that we're advocating for you if that happens, but truly the web presence with We Make Music Happen has been
the concept of advancing the show, and in with that is keep the venue apprised of any changes in your lineup. I don't know C and D that are all of a sudden there, and I had no idea, and then I get bands C and D complaining to me that they weren't on the website or this and that. So a good thing for you to do once you've confirmed your show prior to that show is checking in with the venue, letting them know exactly what's going on, that the lineup hasn't changed, and also get those details like when do we load in, let them know what time the sets are going to go. You've had so much confusion, just don't let me know what's happening. Like I'll have a headline, they have their lineup set and it's all set, and a week before like, oh, this band isn't on, can you change the website really quick? Well, it might not take too much time to change your communication really high, and advance your show 2 weeks in advance. That's a good post booking tip. It's not really one-on-one.
Post thinking, I started doing like a follow-up email after we played, just kind of, especially if the owner's not there next to, I mean, something like that. Do you guys get those?
I love it when I get those, because it means that the staff did their job and that the band had a good experience and interest in coming back. I love those emails.
Okay.
It's not a requirement. I don't hold it against a band if they don't, because we have bands every night of the week and I don't have time to read 100 thank you emails, but I do appreciate it when you do.
Me three. And I, mostly with this, working with students, I love it if you can tell me, sound was a little weird, could you like have a particular thing? Or like, oh, this student was awesome, they did a great job on helping us do these things. Like, yes, I will absolutely pass that along to those people.
What? Oh, or sorry, I hit your bill with a mace.
Right, yes, or that.
That's
we have rules.
Yeah, there seems to be a lot of really great questions coming up too. I'm thinking, so remember how I mentioned those comment cards earlier? Okay, that's typically how we do like a facilitator. The panelists can actually read out your questions, and it will help out anybody in TV land out there.
So print.
And that's also your opportunity to sign on to the email list as well. So if you did want to get more news about these events, you could sign up there. And at the end, we will keep you updated on the Blast House events too, because there's a lot of really cool stuff that the Foundry does, education-wise. But as far as this portion, you guys feel comfortable taking a break right now for a couple minutes?
I had actually one point that I forgot to make earlier. One very crucial in making sure that you get booked and booked again is to not band in town. If you are playing at some venue in town every single week, twice a week, or whatever, like in my mind, I think you shouldn't be playing more than once a month tops, because you're diluting your crowd, you're wearing out your crowd. It's harder to develop a new audience if people see your name everywhere and they think, well, I can just go see him next time or whatever. It's one of the things that's been sort of the bane of my booking existence, and I'm sure for Darwin too. And
it's been the bane of some of my bands too, so my bands have made the same mistakes. I mean, sometimes when you're really enthusiastic and you haven't played in town and you really want to build a fan base, you think you want to take all those opportunities and do it, but it winds up not being a good idea. You're not doing the venues, diluting your potential for drawing people to your show.
It's a crash and burn kind of strategy for your band.
Yeah,
basically.
I'd agree with that.
Absolutely. Wow. Yeah, that's a really great point to bring up too. I kind of want to build off of that before we also broke for break as well. So is there anything day of that a band can do while they're performing or anything like that can kind of make you really enthusiastic to have them back, or vice versa, just kind of want to steer clear?
If you've advanced the show and you're supposed to show up at 7 or 8 o'clock, don't show up at 10 just before your set. That happens every now and again. Now I understand that things happen and you can't, but someone should be there. Just to be there. Don't break your gear. Be respectful of the PA. I've had good friends ruin mics because it was punk rock and it was very neat to do. Something your sound engineer appreciate is don't stick the microphone in the monitor. Don't cup your mic. Don't be a mic cupper. That's another thing. Just try and be as respectful as you can of the equipment that you're being allowed in the space that you're being provided.
Agreed on those points.
Great.
Also, it goes a long way to just even check in with the staff. I mean, whether or not you want to chit-chat with them and become their best friend is one thing, but even just, letting them know who you are, letting them know, asking if there's anything that they want you to do or need you to do, just, having some sort of communication level instead of just showing up with your gear and kind of huddling in the corner, and then no one really knows, like, well, which band is that, and who are, you know, I've just been in that position a lot myself, from behind the bar, and I'm like,
I'm wearing small pants. You have a guitar, right?
right. Because ultimately, the staff that works your show, if they enjoy the night and have a good rapport with you and good rapport with your fans, they're going to cheerlead for you to play there again. So they.
Cool. Agreed. Perfect. Awesome. We'll take a 20-minute break. You guys go, like Mike let me know too, go nuts on the food and beer out there. Okay? Write down the comment cards and it's on the speakers.
Also, We Make Music Happen has cool brand new shirts that are pay what you want that this guy printed in his basement, so it's a little bit seedy, but it adds to the price. Right? So go throw all your money at this guy because he put it of an everything. Okay? Oh.
See the colors.
Is our itchy. I'll just go like this. Okay, I think my phone rang and I feel like it
Yeah, I've been
This is why I switched to little business cards. Supposed to.
Keep around your radar.
All right.
Number one. Is it okay that I added on top? Okay. Wait, is this a pitch? Was this on? Wait, would you get this?
Did I give it to you?
Sorry. Wait. I think it's here.
I'm gonna compile all this and share it at the meeting on Thursday.
I'm trying to get away from booking because I want to focus.
Me too, it's just
Especially when we've got so much of the semester coming in.
And it's oh yeah.
That's what sucks. I have a bunch of events
that I just put on hold for a while for booking too, and I need to
Carol,
probably do that tonight. I want to
A lot of really good questions, so you guys are really making this event. Really getting it rolling. Thank you all for staying tuned. Can you see me?
Now
Can, right? All right, cool. Thank you all for staying tuned. Can they leave comments on YouTube, on the YouTube page too? Yep. All right, perfect. So as well, just fill and then we could get a little bit of feedback. Yeah, welcome to fill out the comment card. Drop them off up here. Our panel has already been looking through them. There are questions and answers too for you guys. If you guys have any other follow-up questions, feel free to raise your hand. But we're gonna stick mainly to the cards, and yeah, we're just gonna roll with that. All right. So, any questions? Are you guys all ready? Cool. I was expecting cheering. Here we go.
We're gonna start. See how this one? This is from an anonymous person who wants to know what the worst and best booking email ever. For me, the best ones are the ones for artists that I know I don't have a chance in hell of booking, like I give me a couple that were just one word, question mark, and then I write back, what do you mean? Those are the worst. You just get like one word or one sentence like, hey, wouldn't you?
Whatever do, and then I write back and I say, yeah, capacity then comes out to work.
I think my like the shotgun approach, where the person LinkedIn messages me, Facebook messages me, emails like 4 of my students, and then the guy who manages like the dining services unit at the restaurant. Which like that's some effort, but perhaps directed effort is important.
Yeah. Focus.
Focus, yeah.
Let's pick out another one.
Here, I'm guilty of this one, so we can do this. How long should you wait to follow up with a venue if they haven't responded to your email requesting a show? So yeah, we're really guilty about this. We have WIS.edu, and it sends an email to our booking student thing, and we are not great, historically speaking, at responding to that email. It's usually better if you find an actual person. Come to understand is that now we have this super awesome thing where once you send an email to that address, it bounces you back an automatic reply that's like, hey, we do a lot of things, we have a lot of people, this is good, and we're really happy you contacted us. Fill out our Google form if you're. And so that Google form we do, I promise, look at whether we should be in better habit of responding back to things, but ultimately that Google form that like lets you kind of tell us all about your band has been really helpful to us, and we do book shows from that. So that doesn't exactly answer.
I would say for me, I do respond. In addition to taking a while for me to see your email, then I also need to listen to the music and, you know, do a little research about the band and check my available dates and all of that. So it can take me for sure a couple of weeks just to even really process your email at all. So I would say at least give me 2 weeks unless you're booking time sensitive. Heard from me in like 3 to 4 weeks, I would definitely try. Maybe I didn't get your email, maybe something crazy happened with my email and it was deleted before I even saw it, that kind of thing. And it doesn't bother me at all to get a contact back. It's really actually helpful because maybe I was interested, but then a million has gotten my not to get back to you about specifics or whatever. And then I'm excited to see your follow-up email. I wanted to talk to you.
I try to answer every email I get, and that's one thing you should get used to if you're going out of town is you might not get responses, so don't take that personally. It's just sometimes people get busy, but I try to get to every email. The first thing I'm going to do is that's typically the guideline I go by. Which one do you want to do next? There's so many.
Do you prefer over-thorough or wordy emails to emails with not enough info? In other words, are you annoyed or put off by too much info? I am not put off by it. I might not read every word of it, though. I got in the first portion of check out your music. I want to know where else if you have played in town. What other bands do you know? What dates are you looking for? Just some kind of basic stuff about your band. I mean, if you want to give me every single band member's whole life story, that's fine. And if I book you or if I have some particular interest, I might read it all, but it's not going to bother me that it's in there, but I just might not read all.
I look for specific information. If it's too wordy, sometimes I look for entertaining. We're going to pack your place, or people are going to be naked, or something like that. But for the most part, if it's too wordy, that's not a bad thing, because you've obviously taken the time to give information and care about what it is you're trying to do. So too wordy isn't a bad thing.
Yeah, I would also say, if you're going to be wordy, organize it well. Make it have nice sections, have headers, lead me around your email and the stuff you want me to. Oh, and one of those other things, we were just talking about this with our students. Don't title your subject line for your email should never be show. It should always be like my band name. It shouldn't be either, Yeah. There's no hope for that. So put your band name, what date maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, a date in the subject line will get your email quick. It's coming up soon. I know I better take a look at that and at least respond and let you know what date is or isn't. So a date in the subject line will catch my eye pretty quickly.
Also, kind of like a tiny insider tip, at least for me, if you put info, your band name and date, or even some other thing that's going to reference what you're talking about in the body of your email, it makes it really easy for me to search for it.
Yeah.
Because, I get at least 100 emails a day, and sometimes I can't remember like the specific name of the person I was dealing with, the specific band name. I just sort of have a nebulous, this band I wanted to talk to him about, and I'm trying to find the email, and if I can search
Okay, I would add just a little insider tip when you're booking tours and stuff. What you guys said just spurred this. When you're trying the shotgun approach, when you're booking a tour in a place you've never been, and you 5 or 6 or 7 different venues to see if anybody has an opening of that date. Subject line, besides being nice and good, Alejandro and these want to play, venue name here on blah, 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 because sometimes you're emailing some dude whose email is just I like fish at gmail.com. And then if you forget to, if you use a boilerplate booking email, and you forget to put the name of the venue, and then, you forget about it because you're booking a bit, really awkward, and I've done this, really awkward to be like, hey, what was that again that I emailed you about? Thanks. So.
Oh yeah, I've received those cold calls before.
Yeah.
Hi. Can we talk?
Here's one that goes to something I wanted to talk about, but earlier, and it has to do with promotion. The question is, what are some of the best ideas you have found for promoting a show? And I'll give a semi-vague answer, is that there are several bands in town I know that are terrific, and not being one of them. But if you really want a wealth of information, I would suggest talking to Mike Huberty from Sunspot. Do crazy different kinds of promotional ideas. They're always their shows an event. They pre-sell tickets. I've had that band play my place on a Friday afternoon, and they've got $2,000 in their pocket before they've even walked through the door or sold the ticket, because they've got a crazy shot glass, a new EP, and a t-shirt band is. But those are some of the really great things that people do. They make their shows an event, and you give people a reason to go, and you give them, give them more than what a regular band would give. Give them some stuff, get them excited, and that's the best stuff I've ever seen. Promote your show regardless. You have to.
I had a question going off of that, promoting a show. What is your expectation of an artist, and that from local to national, about how much they're promoting the show?
Mm-hmm.
Just what do you see the balance as being as far as a portion?
It helps if a band at least create we can put up in the venue. I'm 50-50 on postering around town in the effectiveness of it. It might get your band, someone might recognize it, but as far as getting people to come to your shows, I found that flyering is a little bit less effective unless you've got flyers at the venue. So far, it makes me feel sad for those people. Maybe like they don't have no friends. So, tell your friends, you know, word of mouth, handbills. Handbills are really effective. I think they're more effective than flyering.
Yeah. National acts that come through, do you usually expect like, well, that name should be itself if fans of the really not artists, and that the artist should have those marketing efforts coming out, like, hey, we're performing at this venue, or should the venue be doing more work to say this band is coming to our venue?
I really find a popularity there too. Usually a bigger, you know, a marketing section team that will send out flyers to your venue. They'll contact the papers and stuff. Really, those are kind of self-made machines, and most things work out well for them. And sometimes you're just going to have a night where the national act is competing against a national act in town, and you're going to split your crowds, and just got to hope for the best.
Yeah, I mean, we try to promote, at least from the venue side of things, we try to promote all of our shows equally, whether it's national or local. I mean, certainly there are a few shows where we have maybe more at stake, and so we have to give it a little extra push from our end, but we kind of expect that it's halfway and be doing what they can too, because it's in everybody's best interest to get people out to the show, not only financially, but just so that everybody feels like it's been worth the effort and has a good time.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I think about shows that we do, particularly with local bands, like the Amphibians. There's 4 million of them, and they bring 4 million people to your venue, and it's awesome. Every time you're like, yeah, look at all these drummers. This is great. But you know, and like, whereas in the same way, you know, you've got one DJ up there. And how many friends do you have?
Yeah.
You have a lot, because you're one guy, you're one girl.
Are there certain nights during the week that you are more apt to book a local band and other nights national band? I would say for us, we'll book a national band whatever night they can make it. We don't really set aside specific nights for them, and often national acts will come through a week just because the way they're routing around Chicago or Minneapolis, and so we get an whether we like it or not. But as far as booking, and I'll fill in newer local bands played, well, it's never played anywhere before. Even if you've only played like maybe some house parties or, you know, just kind of still getting your feet wet, probably not going to get a weekend at the High Noon even if it's available, just because your draw is not going to be big enough yet. So I guess in that sense, it's maybe slightly more likely that a local will get booked earlier in the week that we do like earlier in the evening, which can be an easier way for us to break and do that sometimes on a Friday or a Saturday, even for a newer band. It's a little bit less. It also allows us to maybe still do a national act later, but have local show early.
I'm pretty much on board with everything she said. My goal is to have the best available music on any given night, and if it's local or national, that's really what I'm going for.
I guess secret insight into the union and the way we work. We have first right of refusal to do something, and in fact we are expected to do something every Friday and Saturday band, and then a national headliner, you know, any sort of headliner, and then a Saturday headlining band on the terrace and during the summer. I just listed off. I didn't catch that. But regardless, there's a day night that doesn't have great likelihood of having to go through a whole other set of approvals. So you know how I talked about like the booking process with? So that's a lot. But then when we do something on it, what we term an off night, that goes through a whole other set of approvals with the building and the people who run those spaces those nights that are not us. And so all of our shows, if we generally speaking fit into those nights, which sometimes gets into trouble with national routing. And sometimes it's worth it to do those extra approvals, but by and large, we already book is really important to us.
This one with this one. Promotion. Question from back.
It's a similar one.
It's a similar. That was a promotion question. So, Facebook or Twitter, are there any other websites you pay attention to? There are so many different promotional websites and services like Reverb Nation and SoundCloud and things like that. I really don't care which one it is as long as you have one and it has some music and information about the band on it. So I don't specifically pay attention to any website more than another one, just as long as it has the information we need to move forward.
Agreed. I guess maybe I lean towards Facebook slightly more just because even though it's not an exact science by any means, seeing the number of likes to at least get in some ballpark is helpful for a band I've never heard of. I mean, if I check and they
don't, or very rarely we ticket our shows. Usually it's a free and unticketed situation, and so when that's the case, gives us some inclination of how many people might show up to a given show.
I guess I have a follow-up on that. How do you deal with bands with likes?
You can do that?
Oh yeah, that's a very popular technique. I've had bands contact me. Well, we've got 25,000 likes.
Don't
pay for likes on Facebook. It's not worth it. It's really not going to get you booked quicker. In fact, it might make you look worse.
They do that by like people creating fake accounts and then. Sure.
No, they use click farms in developing countries.
Okay.
And the reason that it's worse to do this is, sorry to get off on this tangent, but the reason that it's worse to do this, you create a page as a business and you create a post, it goes out to 10% of your base. 10% like or interact with the thing you post, more people. If you think about it, if you pay $40 for 1,000 in developing countries who have zero interest in your band whatsoever, and you make a post and it goes out to 10% and it goes out to that 10%, all of those people in developing countries, no one will ever see the post, and then you have to pay money to boost it, which is why on the surface when these guys talk about Facebook likes, it seems like a good idea. Oh, I'll just buy my likes, but if you think about it long term, it's a really bad idea.
Other things with Twitter followers.
Yeah.
Like you can buy chunks of Twitter followers. Like even entities that aren't businesses or bands, like people for whom there's no practical benefit to having that popularity. It's they just have an ego that they want to stroke.
Yep. That's the truth. Oh, here's a powder keg. Let's go with this. How do you feel Madison's scene compares to those of other cities? I've been here for not as long as some other people, but I've always seen Madison as kind of a cyclical. I kind of wish attendances would be better because there's a lot of really terrific artists that get passed over and overlooked. But beyond that, I think I love Madison's scene. I mean, I've been fortunate enough to play in other cities and see other scenes, and they don't support the same way they do here. Now, they're just a mass of music-going people who are going to be out at shows every night. And Cathy and I were talking about this earlier. That back in the 90s, I sense for people, to be distracted by other things. That I don't think it's the same.
To benchmark us.
A question off of that. I was actually wondering this and then giving us feedback. Is there a lot of competition between? Do you think is it a healthy competition? Fully support each other. I mean,
I've been friends with her for a long time, so and her venue is a different animal than mine, and definitely different from the system. So we don't compete so much. Every now and again, we'll have a show where it's like, well, is it going to go here or there? But I don't compete against Cathy personally. I mean, there are others along size that I'll compete for local shows. Like there have been some times where I'm like, oh, I can't believe that show went to Mickey's, You know, and I really would have rather have had that, but I didn't have the choice. So I'm not into the whole pissing match competition kind of thing. We're all trying to create the same thing. We're trying to get more people out to the show. So as long as these quality shows are, to me, I think that's a good thing.
Do you guys get requests that would like suit a better venue? Do you pass it on to?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or if I can't host a band, I'll be like, try the Dragonfly. Please try Mr. Roberts. Try the Wisco. You know that you might do well here. You know, I at least try and help us. But then, hey, can you come for me and book the show? I have to explain the difference between what I do at the Frequency and that I'm just promoting, booking it. So.
Yeah, I'm always in a band that I know we've had gets to play with one of you guys or with some of the other venues in town. It's like, yeah, we helped them. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. We're doing, you know, so that was the expression, like high tide raises all ships. Same idea.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And I think that's somewhat just based on how we would like to run our businesses. I mean, I've definitely experienced competition in town in the past and somewhat in the present. I mean, I've been doing this for a really long time, and you know, personalities change and venues change. I think that just the competition aspect comes down to how much you really want that to be part of your daily life. You know, I mean, there's certainly times, like Darwin said, that there are shows that we both want, or we have similar shows on the same night and get killed by it. And there's probably things we could do to make that not happen the same way, but you know, it's not the way I really want to live my life. I'd rather just focus and do what I do the best, and not worry about what he's doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of what we do comes down to education too. So like even if no one showed up to our show, but a student learned that was what would happen if they didn't mark it, or you know, it's less competitive to compete.
Right.
We'll leave that to the bigger promoters in town.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's interesting with us is we've never thought like, oh, what does the frequency have scheduled on this date, or what does the High Noon have scheduled on this date? But we think about our own cross draw and cannibalizing ourselves. Like, we're not going to book 2 rappers in different venues. So it's interesting that we've never thought about outside competition. Well, because our shows are free, so we have that.
How long?
You did have
You've been around forever. All of these clubs.
Yeah.
She's been booking bands long. So.
Yeah, well, I opened OK's in 1994. However long that is, I don't want to say.
I started actually booking bands in the early 2000s at the Anchor Inn, and that's when I got my first taste and experience of what it was like to be. I mean, I learned a lot in the first couple of years. I mean, there are things that I did not know when I started, and I was just kind of learning as I went. It's maybe 12 years or something like that.
I've been in my current role 3 years.
How often do you have a situation where a national act comes and plays like a Lion Energy or Cole Center or something, and then after that gig, they do an after show at?
I don't, because typically those bands ask a lot of money. It's funny you ask that, because it's coming through November 12th. They wanted to. But they wanted to do the official after party at the Frequency. Like, you can't. I think we could do it for 15. Okay. All right, we got all this radio promotion. Now they're down to 500, and I'm still not going to do it. But I don't do it often. I find that after big show parties aren't really what they're cracked up to be unless you have the headlining band there.
Right.
Like hanging out, meeting people.
Being there.
I avoid it.
Yeah. I'm not sure I've ever done it, actually, as I recall. It's a huge gamble.
Yeah. You've got people getting drunk at the big show, and then they typically go home afterwards.
Yeah. Or they might still go out, but they want to do something different. They don't want to go have the same experience they just had and pay more money for it.
Yeah. That's a good point.
I have a midnight curfew.
Yeah.
Oh, where do we want to go?
11 on Thursdays.
Here's a really quick one. Do you want pictures? Doesn't matter. personally.
Don't care.
Maybe we want a picture of something, not your tumblered lunch again.
Should make that the flyer.
I would say the main reason to include photos is if you have like a specific look. You know, like for instance, Ty's band, that's probably helpful.
Right.
So people understand.
Right. Totally.
But otherwise, you know, it's not a beauty contest for me. So.
Unless you're going to use fire. We need to know if you're going to use fire.
Yeah.
Killing me. You're killing me. You know?
Sorry, Ty.
Here's a local promoter question. Is booking is the different if working with a local promoter? Success horror stories. Working with promoters story in general, or it could be great. I mean, you know, local promoters, there are different levels of local promoters. You've got your bigger ones like your Frank Production, Majestic Live, and other people like that, and you've got smaller promoters who will typically try and stick with a lower range national act. You can have really great shows with promoters, and you can have really bad shows where they don't promote at all. Typically, I won't work with those promoters again. So if I do have a horror story with a promoter, generally I won't have
Everything else, and so occasionally I've been sort of it and then found out, oh, that they actually didn't promote, and they didn't. I've ended up doing a lot of the work myself, not only to promote it, but also to figure out details with the bands and make sure that everything I'm supposed to do, and it ends up being work for me, and too late in the game I've discovered that I should have been promoting more, and so the show is a flop.
Yeah. And then you have to deal with the teary-eyed promoter who has to fork out the rent at the end of the night. You can really lose your shirt promoting a show if you don't promote it.
We very, if ever, work in that capacity. It's always through the students and through us.
This one's kind of like a college thesis. We'll save that for last.
For sample recordings, are live or studio preferred? I would say I don't really have a preference other than if it's a live recording, make sure it's representative of your sound and not a live recording like from far away in a can, you know, while you guys are playing a song that went horribly that night, you know, which is pretty obvious, but include one of each, that'd be awesome. Sense of what your live show would be like and how polished you can be.
If in something live, a lot of times I'm more apt to look at video, an actual video of your performance. Like, you know, I think it's interesting, but I do like getting both because then you get to listen to the band's recorded material, and then you get to actually sound like live. So, you know, I like both. To give bands a list of open dates and have them give you their availability, or to have bands approach you to propose specific dates? Does it help to give you physical CDs, or do you prefer links to the music? I think the physical stuff is kind of going. I do like having that product in my hand a little bit, but most of the times, you know, what I get are just a little envelope with someone's email address written on it with no other information. So I like it when it's the nice flowery package and you get to see the artwork and the time and effort that a band put into the product.
For me, I prefer because I know I can check it right then and there. I feel bad because I know the bands do put the time into it, and they're also, it's some money out of their pocket to give me one of the CDs, but more often than not, it ends up in a pile on my desk. Time for it, which is possibly months down the road. I just, if I can just like listen to it right then and there. As far as the first part of the question, where to kind of target holds all over the place, and I'm just trying to like make the puzzle work out with who's going to fit where. So I actually don't like it when people ask me like, what dates do you have available? It's much better if you at least you're looking at like, we'd like to play in November or something like that.
I agree with that. I think that's easier for our students. We also have a puzzle and we have like 100 people working at the puzzle. Anything you can give us that's sort of a benchmark, I think is. What was the other part of that question? Oh, CDs. Yeah, I find everything, so a real CD doesn't tell me much. Sorry.
Yeah, and as far as the dates go, I've had the experience, well, I'll send out a list of open dates because I have like weekday availabilities generally. And, you know, I'll send that list to a band, and then they'll respond a month later after I've already booked the date. And they're like, well, you said that date was open. And I'm like, well, I said that a month ago. You know, so I prefer someone to just say, this is what we're looking for. It makes everything a lot easier. This one will save for last because it's like 5 parts.
Okay. This one's basic. I would say any other press kit.
Music, anything you can provide to give us about. That's really kind of it.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so maybe we start with the easier question, sort of like, when do you charge a cover and why? And sort of related to that, perhaps, is when you booking charges, do you ever include food or drink? And what is the range of payments? I assume those are related for you guys.
Yeah.
We don't include food or drink with the cover charge. Cover charge goes to the bands. And, or wait, or are you saying, sorry, that's booking charges. Okay, sorry, I misunderstood that. So I guess what you're asking is if the band or drink along with their money. Yes, typically drinks. Food depends on who the band is. National acts we have to feed. That's a standard part of the deal. Local bands typically not tickets. And as far as the range of payment, that depends again on the band. I mean, if it's someone that can command a guarantee, then we pay. If it's someone who's kind of just getting started, it's more likely to be a percentage of the door split with the other bands. What was the other part there? Oh, why? Pretty much always charge a cover, and the reason is that's how we pay the bands.
And the sound guy. The sound guy's got it paid. Sound person.
So we do things a little weirder. Can't provide alcohol for you, bar none. That's a part of being a part of a state entity. We don't ever give anyone alcohol. We also don't ever feed anyone. Again, it's like a really industry standard, high headlining sort of artist, and we have to kind of do that. And we never do covers. We just pay bands flat guarantees always. Perhaps not much, but a flat guarantee.
There's a question here. I'm curious, wondering where this question came from. But it says, "Do you like first-time booking fees?" I'm not even sure what that is. I'm not sure what a first-time booking fee is.
I can elaborate as the writer. in other bands and in this band, where you're the first time you're so okay, would be our rate to try out, like test the venue on our end and test the band.
Like the club is charging the band?
No, like the band is charging. It'll, like they say, then we'll go up but here's our first time rates.
Oh, okay. The band is coming in saying this is what we want.
Like a starting fee.
Like a starting fee?
Yeah, to play the first time at a venue.
Really encountered that.
Yeah, I haven't encountered that and tried anything like that. Typically what we do is a door deal at the frequency. We take the sound out of it's like a minimum guarantee kind of thing, and I wish I could. I really wish I could say, hey, the first time you're playing my place, you're going to get $100 no matter who shows up, but it's just not realistic to be able to do that.
Or would you guys ever do an open jam night? One band, players can come up to jam. We have not really done that. I mean, over my whole career, I guess we've had things sort of similar to that, but I guess at this point with the size of the venue that I have, I'm not sure that would be a good fit for us.
I would love to do it, but I find that the greater success you can have comes with having a regular night. Third Thursday of the month or whatever is a jam night hosted by band X. The problem I have in doing that is that because of my relationship with and their promotion team, it's really hard for me to just say this is going to be, and you can limit your opportunities that way too. You know, I'd hate to have an open jam night and I'd missed a chance to book someone like the Dwarves or something like that, or Majestic has a bigger, the Blues guys do a lot of blues jams and stuff like that. But
Funk's Pub has their house bands. Jeff welcomes people to jam.
That's the first time I'm hearing of it.
Could I just chime in on that? Good if you yourself organize like a collective of people who have like the same equipment who would be down to jam. So that could be like something on your end to organize first and then propose it to a big venue.
Also, Deerwood Studios, they have their studio is equipped with guitars, piano, who run that. They host, I think it's like monthly jams or something.
Are they on the We Make Music Happen board?
I don't know. You know Julia McConaughey?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe she's on there.
You should.
That's something really cool.
I'll mention it to her.
See your
today.
bites too. Yeah, the more you, I mean, we have a lot of interest in this, so that'd be really cool to actually see happen and promote.
Yeah. I'll mention.
Cool. Nice.
Yeah.
The closest thing we would ever have to offer to that is for instruments though. We don't have backline, but if there's anything you wanted to like plug into our soundboard, you're welcome to do that. You're welcome to bring your whole drum kit if you want. We'll facilitate it.
I have a question about those kind of things. How many clubs have in-house PAs? It's a new thing for me. I'm old school.
Most of them typically have some form of PA. The quality of that PA ranges.
Does that range with operator or equipment?
You're going to have good gear. Not a bad engineer, but maybe someone who has less experience. Then you'll have a great engineer doing something with a speaker and a mic. But it changes from club to club. But at most clubs, typically will have some form of PA. Sometimes they won't have anyone to run it, and they'll expect the bands to run it. It really depends on the club.
I don't know if way to put it, but I guess I would say any place that considers itself a club or music or like primary is going to have a sound system and a tech. It's going to be more like bars that just do live music after the dinner hours over, or you know, on just weekends or whatever, are less likely to have sound systems.
But if you're in a band and you're playing out of town, double check that fact. They happen to my band's place, and we come in and we're like, "Where's the PA sound?" And then the bartender's, "Well, you guys said you had your own equipment." Out of heartbreak that way.
Nice. Cool. Any other follow-ups or anything like that? Guys, this was awesome. Thank you. I really just volunteering your time. It's always a pleasure just to meet up with any of you, and I know I got a lot out of this. I saw everybody scribbling great. Thank you.
Thanks to Mike and Blackstoff.
Absolutely. Huge shout out to Mike. And if you guys haven't been to like their website or checked out the Foundry, they run educational events too, lessons, and all really, really cool stuff. I mean, Mike has saved the day. It's awesome. He's to thank for this huge setup. Nice sound. Thank you. And like check out Backstage Vibe too. Every time we do this, they're able to provide us with a live stream. They do a lot of really cool stuff with musicians, help them out like personally, and it's a blast. So thank you guys. But yeah, if you want to check out the weekend that we've been talking about, we do have. I actually left my cards up there on the table by the shirts. Which, by the way, are pay what you want. There's also Twizzlers if you want to grab them. But on the cards, there's a Facebook page. That's the one to the group. So if people do a lot of stuff. You know, a band could say, "Hey, we had somebody. Do you guys want to bring up the open jam sessions?" Or jump on that. It's there for you guys to use. And I mean, if you guys have any questions, feel free to talk afterward. And yeah, one more round of applause for our panelists. Awesome. Yeah. Thanks. I think we're all done. Thank you. Great job.